on NVIDIA. This could be the most important video you will ever watch, because while millions of investors continue to blindly pile into the stock, they don't see what I see coming. The fact is, NVIDIA and the tech bubble are on the cliff's edge today. Valuations are at unsustainable nosebleed levels, and insiders have been dumping millions worth of shares. Buffett just sold half of his Apple stock, and that's only the tip of the iceberg.
When is it ever taking responsibility? They never did this, okay? They just continue to gaslight. They're still gaslight. Joe Biden fell asleep on the board. He couldn't do debate for 45 minutes. He didn't know what his arguments would be when it comes to inflation. He can't articulate his agenda for his second term. But I still think he can run. I still think he's sharp.
Right now, you click the button below. So if you
oh man, again, they double learn. Again, this is a grip.
Sure.
They're trying to make a quick buck off of the line that they told. Okay, this is only possible because these people told lies, right? Even though everybody knew what was happening, they lied and now going into President Trump's second term, now they want to come out here and tell the truth. Because they want to save face. But again, these people, if I was a Democrat,
media reacted, but then the Supreme Court comes in and says, no, actually, they used the law properly. The court ruled that Donald Trump did in fact have the authority to remove these individuals. His actions were constitutional and legally sound. And that's not even the only victory this week, or I guess it's Monday, so last week, the Supreme Court on Tuesday.
We should demand that these lawyers be fired. These judges be fired. They're a bunch of fucking liars, and they need to be fired. When are we, the people, going to stand up and demand that people be held accountable for lying?
They also sided with the Trump administration, upholding the mass firing of tens of thousands of probationary federal employees. All of the stuff supposedly Trump is doing where he's breaking the rules. It turns out he isn't. That's the crux of this guy's argument. Oh no, I could never support what they're doing, even though they seem to be tackling actual waste, fraud, and abuse, because it's acting illegally, and I can't support criminal activity. I mean, come on. The Trump administration has been victorious in nearly every single one of these cases. Sure, every now and then the rulings don't go their way, but are we really going to pretend like that's unprecedented? We saw all kinds of Supreme Court rulings and lower court rulings that declared in July his actions unconstitutional. Biden lost some pretty major cases at the Supreme Court during his first term, but it's funny because I don't seem to remember anyone on the left accusing of him being an autocrat. I never heard the words constitutional crisis when Biden's policies were being blocked. No, because of course it's a
Start with W2, file your success with understand plus
that's just the system works. It's
roughly 30%.
This idea that Donald Trump is acting like a tyrant and usurping the Constitution, first of all, isn't true, and also literally cannot be true. I mean, sure, the Trump administration is saying what they can get away with. They're trying to force real action, and the courts are intervening as necessary. That's literally how the checks and balances that are built into the Republic system work. I mean, Donald Trump objectively and definitionally is navigating the system properly. If you listen to these left-wings, there's a call right now to be outraged. It's at the same level of hypocrisy that
what the administration has inherited the Philippines system as a border, and they are working to correct that.
These leftists pretend they want, I mean, it's what they're on the record claiming that they want, not just Ezra Klein, but most Democrats, and including the politicians, they all used to admit that there's a problem, right, with waste, fraud, and abuse. Oh, but Elon's not following their precious norms, I guess, and so they're outraged. This is exactly what makes it impossible for me to take these people seriously. They spend years talking about corruption and inefficiency, and when an actual outsider steps in and does something, suddenly they're defending big bureaucracy. It's pathetic, and frankly, these people are the exact reason why nothing ever changes. They're too ideologically captured. It's the trap of tribalism, too scared to step outside the party line, and clearly they'd rather defend drugs and failed career politicians just because they have a D next to their name than support somebody who's actually trying to make a good, positive change. And it's so hilarious coming from these leftoids who brand themselves as reformists, ready to pump their anti-establishment through the counterculture. But what do they do in actual practice? They defend the status quo time and time again, obsess over the norms, enable corruption, appeal to authority, support the same decaying system that they claim to despise. It's youth mentality dressed up in rebellion cosplay. Change, right? Change, that's their favorite slogan. Change and progress over the progressives. But they're not agents of change. They're the gatekeepers of the status just go. Time and time again, they expose themselves as this mindless partisans who say the right things on certain issues to make it seem like they're based. They get it, but when push comes to shove, clearly they don't have the balls to support the guys who are actually freaking doing it. Anyways, that's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
Here's why you should definitely publish your book. I believe this quote by Toni Morrison sums it up best. If there is a book you want to read, but it hasn't been written yet, then you must write it. Well, the first reason is to tell your story. The only reason why we are even able to know what happened to humankind 3,000 years ago is because somebody had the desire to write it down. So whether it's your life story, or a story of fictional characters, or a book about a certain area of expertise.
All right, we might be ready to move on this thing. If you want to work, you'll get a knock on your door any minute.
And the same reason, the story holds characters. Now it might seem obvious again, but I'll find the jungle of thoughts playing every day, and writing things down can really help us solidify our beliefs, clarify our own understanding of a particular topic, or write a compelling narrative without any hopes. This process can also be incredibly therapeutic, and therapy is rooted in one's ability to be able to understand yourself and express yourself, and it may bring many others comfort if you will. By publishing your book to be able to leave your mark on the world and create something truly permanent, your book is your legacy. And who knows, maybe it'll be even something that your grandchildren or great-grandchildren and hopefully a wider audience as well will be able to read far into the future. But publishing seems like such a complicated, expensive, and time-consuming process. I used to think the same as well, until I tried Spine Publishing Platform. You simply drag and drop your manuscript in and see it transform into a published book within less than 30 days. Want to know more? Click the link below and schedule a 15-minute call with one of our publishers. It's fine. The same old story, read.
Most Americans have no idea why Putin invaded Ukraine, or what his goals are now. They've never heard his voice. That's wrong. Americans have a right to know all they can about a war they're implicated in. And we have the right to tell them about it, because we are Americans too.
The idea that we're going to send in offensive equipment and have planes and tanks and trains going in with American pilots and American crews, just understand, don't kid yourself, no matter what you all say. That's called World War III.
U.S. official has confirmed to CBS News President Biden has given authorization for Kyiv to use U.S.-supplied long-range weapons to strike deep into Russian territory.
I'm sitting here with my father. I will make certain between the man sitting next to me and every person he knows and my ability to forever hold a grudge that you will regret not following my direction. I am sitting here waiting for the call with my father. Sounds like a shakedown, doesn't it, Director? I'm not going to get it. You seem deeply uncurious about it, don't you? Almost suspiciously uncurious. Are you protecting the Bidens?
Absolutely not. The FBI
Well,
does not have no interest in
you won't answer the
protecting
question
anyone.
about whether or not that's a shakedown, and everybody knows why you won't answer. Because to the millions of people who will see this, they know it is. That your inability to acknowledge that is deeply revealing about you. After a long flight from the UK, Julian Assange's day began on the island of Saipan, a tiny territory chosen because it's the closest US court to Australia. This normally quiet courthouse, swarming with reporters, that the WikiLeaks founder arrived flanked by former Prime Minister Kevin Rudd.
The individual used an AR-15 in order to act out his assassination attempt. AR-15 has a range of about 400 to 600 yards. My question. Weapons in the United States. There are a number of weapons out there with a number of ranges. Again, an advance was completed. The determination of the perimeter, I'm not going to speak to specifics, but there are a number of factors that are taken into account when we determine our perimeter. Some of it has to do with terrain, some of it has to do with buildings, some of it has to do with assets and resources that are available. What I'm hearing is that a perimeter was not established outdoors in an outdoor venue that would prevent an AR-15, which is one of the most common weapons used in mass shootings, from being able to be within the range of Secret Service protection.
Have you provided all audio and video recordings in your possession to this committee, as we asked on July 15th, yes or no? I would have to get back to you. That is a no. You're full of shit today. You're just being completely dishonest.
So what is the threat to democracy? People on both sides, people in power, saying out loud that they want to control what you get to hear and see. It is real, it is a threat, and it is happening and growing, and I'll tell you what, punishing thought is on the agenda. And I just heard it from someone, not a kook, not Alex Jones, not Tucker Carlson, one of the most sober and intelligent politicians of our time, Hillary Rodham Clinton.
I think it's important to indict the Russians, just as Mueller indicted a lot of Russians who were engaged in direct election interference and boosting Trump back in 2016. But I also think there are Americans who are engaged in this kind of propaganda. And whether they should be civilly or even in some cases criminally charged is something that would be a better deterrence.
Bitch, you should be in fucking prison, bitch.
The Biden administration repeatedly tried to manage censoring content, including information about Hunter Biden, and Zuck admitted that he also regrets complying with these demands. In a letter to the House Judiciary Committee Chairman, Representative Jim Jordan, Zuck writes, quote, "The FBI warned us about a potential Russian disinformation operation about the Biden family and Maria's aunt in the lead up to the 2020 election. That fall, when we saw a New York Post story reporting on Joe Biden's family, we sent that story to fact checkers for review and temporarily demoted it."
You know, you do some tweets that seem to be
or at least give support to some who would call others conspiracy.
Well, yes, but I mean, honestly, you know, some of these conspiracy theories have turned out to be true.
Which ones?
Well, like the Hunter Biden laptop.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am in awe of Ms. Jankowicz. When the department picked her, did it know that she had said that Mr. Hunter Biden's laptop is Russian disinformation? Did it know that she had vouched for the veracity of the Steele dossier?
Senator, let me repeat myself and add an additional fact. One, we did not discuss internal hiring processes.
I think you've got no idea what disinformation is, and I don't think the government's capable of it. You know who the greatest propagator of disinformation in the history of the world is? The U.S. government. Think of all the debates and disputes we've had over the last 50 years in our country. We work them out by debating them. We don't work them out by the government being arbitrary. I don't think guardrails. I want you to have nothing to do with speech.
To be a conspiracy theorist is to have been right all along, despite the efforts of the paid-for liars. And it's also to be demonstrably well ahead of the gullible, still believing in smoke and mirrors. Conspiracy theorist was first used by the CIA to shut down those who doubted the official line about the murder of John F. Kennedy, that fishy old tale about a lone shooter and a magic bullet, and then that lone shooter being shot by another lone shooter before he could talk. That was in the 1960s, and from then, the label conspiracy theorist worked for decades as the means to make thinking people too scared to speak when they smelt a rat. Let 2024 be the year of clearing out the rubbish, the trash. The long overdue year when the past or sell-by date labels, conspiracy theorists among them, are cast into the dustbin of history.
Hope you guys had a wonderful weekend. Welcome back to Redacted on this Monday. I'm Clayton Morris.
Welcome to our new set. It's a temporary, but we're in transit. Thank you so much for being here with us, though.
Yeah, it is temporary, so please forgive cuts and bruises and stuff. So again, we're working on that over the next few weeks. The new one will be built out and everything. So thank you guys for joining us here on this Monday. Hey, I should point out that we have a loaded show for you today. A lot of interesting stories that we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about Trump declaring martial law. This is what Democrats are saying, of course, is going to happen on April 20th. They've been warning about this, that President Trump is going to seize power. He's going to use the U.S. military. Okay, well, maybe that's what exactly it is. 420, taking control of the U.S. southern border and putting the military members of the military all across the United States to make sure that he's grabbing power. So we're going to talk about that. Plus, Iran, he typeset the defense secretary of the weekend, saying that better get to the negotiating table or they will specifically be used massive military attacks against Iran. We're going to talk about that in today's show.
Plus, the European Union admits that it is taking this climate money that they told you would save the planet. Oh, no, they're funneling it to left-wing lobbyist groups. They're not supposed to do that. They say, we're sorry, we won't do it again. But why was that okay in the first place, do you think? Why was that happening? Could it be because all European leaders are socialist monsters?
It could be.
That's the answer. But
okay, you're going to give me a
yeah, but we're going to talk more about it.
Also, a bombshell CIA report out that finally shows these documents about a UFO crash that happened over 30 years ago. Really fascinating story. And why are we just learning about this now? But more importantly, what actually happened during this event? We're excited. I'm excited to have James Fox on the show today. Obviously, documentary filmmaker, UFO investigator, to dive deep into that story and so much more. So very excited to have James on the show today. But we've got so much news to get to. Thank you guys for subscribing. and being here with us. It's free to subscribe to the show. So whether you're watching us on Rumble, on X, on YouTube, on Twitch, we're streaming live on all those platforms right now. So
Also, Clayton has kicked me under the table telling me that I'm not looking you in the eye. I thought the camera was there. It's there. I apologize.
There's
We're
a
here
woman,
now,
there's
guys.
a giant monitor there, so she's like, I'm just gonna stare at myself.
My hair okay today? It's there. See you. Oh, sorry.
That's
Okay.
me. While we were setting up the temporary studio last night, our 8-year-old was in here, and she was doing exactly what you were doing. She was just like bouncing in front of the camera. And she
I apologize. I'm here now. I'm with you. We're going to do this. This is serious news. All right, before we do that, though, we want to remind you that Redacted is brought to you by Fast Growing Trees. So if you have spring fever, you're ready to plant something in your yard, this is a great place to start because FastGrowingTrees.com has amazing selection of any kind of tree that you would like that they can ship to your house, so you don't have to go to a box retailer, put that in your car, get dirt all over the place. No, they can ship it to you in a beautiful shipping container with no mess, no fuss, and it's ready to plant. Plus, there's a great selection there, and they can advise you on what would go great in your yard, in your climate, in which location, whether it needs sun or not. So really, you cannot fail with Fast Growing Trees. So check them out. Head on over to FastGrowingTrees.com. Use the code Redacted, and you'll get an additional 15% off at checkout. So once again, the code is Redacted. Head on over to FastGrowingTrees.com. You may have noticed that this is the planting season. Costco wants you to buy trees. Home Depot wants you to buy trees. So go first to FastGrowingTrees.com. Use the code Redacted. Get an additional 15% off at checkout.
All right, well, if you listen to people with Trump derangement syndrome, President Trump is about to declare martial law on April 20th and use wartime powers to round up political enemies, of course. So you only have 6 days left to prepare for Trump's martial law. This is exactly what Democrat James Carville is saying this morning. Here it is. Democrats in full panic mode over absurd conspiracy that Trump will declare martial law on April 20th. We want to bring in Daniel McAdams now from the Ron Paul Institute. He is the executive director of the Ron Paul Institute to talk about this. And I also want to talk about, with Daniel, this and Iran, two big stories that we want to kind of get to today. Daniel, good to see you again. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you, back with you guys.
So let's just go through this because you can help us make sense of this. I'm just going to go through this Gateway Pundit article here. So the left is melting down, it reads, once again, this time over a tinfoil hat level conspiracy theory that President Donald Trump is preparing to declare martial law on April 20th. It's a blue and on fantasy of their own. The source of this hysteria, James Carville. He was just on the War Room where he talked about what would happen under President Trump using martial law. He says, you're so correct to be concerned about this. It's getting worse by the day. It's not going to stop getting worse, and we ought to be on high alert. And basically, Daniel, it seems like the left's panic, according to the Gateway Pundit, stems from a total misreading of his January 20th executive order, putting U.S. military on the U.S. southern border. And by putting tens of thousands of forces, which he's already been doing, on the southern border, this is the source of the problem. Is that how you read it?
Yeah, when I first got the link from your team, I thought, oh my gosh, I hope they don't believe this. This is the craziest thing I've heard. I mean, there are a lot of things to be critical of Trump about, but if I were Trump, I'd be happy if he's with my adversaries and my enemies because they're so dumb. They bring things up like this. Carville is not doing himself or his allies any favors. Now, there are some concerns about what Trump is doing with some deportations, and that is a fact. But rather than address those specifically, on principle, they throw out this hyperbolic stuff that will basically just discredit their arguments. So, will Trump do that? I'm not a betting man, but I would bet that he's not going to do that. He's not going to shut down the country because we've got a border problem. Carville, I don't know what he's smoking these days, but it's not he's strong.
Or maybe he's just trying to keep his relevancy, if it seems like that. But specifically, the U.S. military will occupy public land on the southern border to create along the sort of buffer zone that Theodore Roosevelt had put in place back in 1907. But of course, Democrats are painting this as like a land grab by the United States military. But you can see here this actual buffer zone here as it goes across the United States. And it has basically, it allows the American, it's like 60 foot deep, basically, it's this public land that Teddy Roosevelt put in place. So it's not a land grab, it's been there
over 100 years. You have to ask yourself, why are they so opposed to stopping people from coming to this country illegally? You know, I mean, is it voters they're looking for? Maybe get a better platform, guys. You know, think of some better stuff to say, and maybe you'll attract some voters. You know, what do they have against this? Now, there could be some problems if you over-militarize, if you use the military in ways that they really shouldn't be used because they're trained to blow stuff up and kill people, and that's what we want them to do. So, you know, you can question some of that, but you can question the fact that by all objective standards, the illegal border crossings have crashed since Trump has come to office. And most Americans believe that's a very good thing. You know?
Looking, home.
Come on.
Right. Well, let's talk about what Democrats think, though, because a new Rutgers poll out this weekend shows that 55% of Democrats think it's okay, or maybe even preferable, to assassinate the president. They're fully on board with this. And over the weekend, Alex Jones was on Tucker Carlson, and if you listen to this, he says, yeah, this is James Carville's meeting, and Democrats like it. Listen.
Hey, man, can we just get on with the tour?
Pollsters were so credible a few months before the last election last year. Raskin, Carville, that's all of the set civil war conventions. We're going to need to have uprisings. Carville said that.
It's probably worth more than my
It's
whole
going to kill you. We got to rise up.
Worth
Carville said, and others.
Hey, man, is this his motherfucking death?
Clearly explaining with the Tesla.
Ooh, shit, I know how to work one of these motherfuckers.
Bruh,
He calls
that's
for
not the
violence
button.
to 55%.
Hey, count me in, my nigga. I'm finna
Instead,
rip the mic, man. Come on, count me in.
Is this motherfucker for real, man?
This is as real as it get, dog. Watch this. Hey, I got you, homie. Come on, man, give me a beat, nigga.
Towards what I believe is in the cards. Because you see the Democrat candidates and their operation before the election.
I said don't touch nothing.
Shit.
Oh, community college ass
What's
nigga.
that office?
Man, y'all some goofy motherfuckers.
I'm going to
I'm
kill
gonna put a beat on for you, man. I
when
got
they
you
do,
right.
there's going to be an uprising. Well, Trump's not going to go mow down or illegally
That's what I'm talking about, nigga.
You also see
Gangsta shit.
supporters are going to attack black people.
LD up in this motherfucker.
They've never received a church, university. Trump supporters are going to kill black people.
Riding
You know, a
around
lot
on
of
the
the
child.
global groups have been
Mark
funding
Scatter and
white
the
supremacist
bitches
groups and
block.
domestic terror
Big
groups.
dog, big nut. Coming through and don't give a
So
fuck.
one of the things that he goes on to say is what Democrats don't know is that if they were to succeed, the eventuality of what happens if President Trump were in fact assassinated would be far worse. But he doesn't extrapolate. So what do you think would happen in terms of far worse total chaos? What is your read of that?
Just punch me in,
Well,
nigga.
I have
That's
to
a
say
hit.
it's very sad. You know, I need to
That's my
very
home.
close
I
conversations
am the
between
king
the
of
bodies of
Los
all.
Santos.
And what I saw there is families that were so involved in politics. It meant so much to them that they literally would hate other
I
family
see y'all
members.
found the smoke.
And I remember at the time thinking how
Somebody
insane
say
this is.
smoking.
We
Hey,
weren't
hey,
like that in
hand that shit
America.
here. Show
We
some
had
respect to
differences.
the house, bro.
Hey, y'all forgot about me?
But we didn't flip out
Hell
and
no, you
alienate
didn't get
family
no
members.
trip slip sign.
All of this
Tanisha
in
ain't going
America
for
has
that shit.
become so
Man, she cool,
important
man.
for
Hand that
Americans.
shit over.
And
Man,
they
cool
will
my
literally
ass.
talk
That
about
big build to
assassinating
be
someone.
shoulder woman
Oh,
ain't finna whoop
get
my
real.
ass because I'm babysitting you and getting you high.
It doesn't. It's never going to matter you. You.
Dog.
That's much who
If
is the
my eyes
president.
go red, y'all
It's
gonna
not
tell me,
going
right?
to matter in your
I mean,
everyday life.
Tanisha cool, but
It's
shit,
very,
she
very
don't need
sad
to
to
like
see
no,
this.
no, you
And that's
know.
why conservatives like us and libertarians, the argument is to reduce the role of government in our lives so you don't have this insane derangement syndrome.
on? Damn, they high.
Yeah,
as
and it
fuck.
is out of hand.
Look at
And the derangement is
Blame
crazy
bored
right
and
now.
pride off that LD
you know,
super strain. I
There's a lot of
told
people
you
in
it
the
was
chat room
bomb.
saying right now,
Man, what's in this
you know,
shit?
Alex Jones
That's
nailed
that
this. He
pie
nailed this.
Man, it looked like nobody did.
And he's nailing
Oh,
it again
shit,
right
they having
now.
an
So
out-of-body
this
experience,
interview
dog.
with Tucker predates this James Carville commentary, which is crazy to me. He was talking about James Carville making these, you know, that we're going to see Tom Holman, the
Man,
U.S.
them
military is
motherfuckers
going
all
to kill
right.
immigrants.
Come on, get up, man. I need y'all to do
And
something
here
with
we
me.
have it.
Lamar,
Like
them
2
my
days
motherfucking
later, it's
business
kind of
partners.
insane.
Pooh,
I
can
know
you
people can
please
say
watch
whatever
the
they want
Sleeping
about Alex
Beauties
Jones,
while I
but he
take
nails
this
it,
dude
I
out
mean,
on the gangster shit
repeatedly.
refresher course?
And just to be clear about this
I ain't
Department of
about to clean
Defense
shit up.
jurisdiction
Get them some
opens
snacks
land,
when they
saying
wake up, all right,
the
dog?
soldiers
Man,
have
what
the
the
right
fuck y'all
to
think this
detain
is?
illegal
A
aliens
hotel?
as they
Hell no,
if they were trespassing on a United States military base. In other words, this 60-foot plot of land treats that 60-foot plot of
Hey,
land
dog,
as if
you
it's a
know that bud
military
that you and your
base.
business partner
So
had
the military
smoking, that was
has
the
the
last
right
of
to
my stash.
detain these
So we
illegal
gotta run by the
aliens
warehouse so I can
until
read
they're
up
handed
before
over
this
to immigration authorities,
big
as if they were just
Yeah, I'm with you,
invading
dog,
for
but you gotta
brag.
be quick
Is
about
that the way you read it as well?
I think it's a great deterrent as well. I mean, under Biden, if they got over there, they'd hand them a WIC card or, you know, a debit card here, a couple $1,000 on it, you know?
Right.
And they're gonna put it in, they're gonna pass the border back to the relatives where they came from. Hey, you're not gonna believe this when you get there. They give you a card and you get free stuff. You know, so having the military on the border as deterrent